Marissa asked me to read a couple of quotes from a man named John Piper, who's a well-known Bible teacher. He talks about marriage and how it's this mystery refers to Christ and the church. And he says this: marriage is not mainly about prospering economically. It is mainly about displaying the covenant-keeping love between Christ and His church. He says, knowing Christ is more important than making a living. Treasuring Christ is more important than bearing children. Either way, it is short. It may have many bright days, or may be covered with clouds. But if we set our face to make of marriage mainly what God designed it to be, no sorrows and no calamities can stand in our way. Every one of them will be not an obstacle to success, but a way to succeed. The beauty of the covenant-keeping love between Christ and His church shines brightest when nothing but Christ can sustain.
Ian and I first met in 2005 at college and had a blast for 10 months getting to know each other. And I was looking through and I found one of my favorite pictures, which I think was actually taken right before his accident. He's got a camera on his tripod. And it's just a classic Ian face that to me sums up who he is. We've been dating for 10 months and he was working an extra job for his dad and he was on his way to work near Pittsburgh. And he got a phone call that he had been in an accident and we didn't know if it was when he got to work or on his way. And so we got down to Pittsburgh and I was just praying one time in the car that it wouldn't be his brain. After being in the hospital for a few hours, we found out that it was, and he had been in brain surgery for a few hours and suffered a traumatic brain injury. God totally spared his life. One night he was failing for the 5 reactivity tests, and the next morning he was doing well, and his brain was starting to respond again. I moved in with his family after the accident, so I was doing walking therapy and just did whatever I could to make his life fun. We'd go out on dates, and looking back, it's weird because he couldn't talk and he couldn't eat. So we probably looked like complete weirdos being on dates, but we had a blast, and I just talked to him all the time. I knew that before Ian's accident, he was very serious about marriage and was room shopping, so I knew where he was, and that helped me so much. After he couldn't talk, I knew that he loved me, and I knew where he wanted the relationship to go, because we were dating very intentionally. We just prayed that marriage would someday happen, and watched all our friends get married, and start having families. That was challenging, but we just tried to hold that hope that that would be us someday. This is our board of gratefulness, and we encourage anybody who comes in to write it up, send their thankful for. It could be really small. Mine is just Saturday mornings, and it's just a good way that we've found to be just practicing gratefulness. And Ian, I think half of yours say my wifey. She's pretty cool. We decided that we couldn't really consider marriage as an option until Ian was able to communicate. But if he could communicate with me, then we could have a marriage, knowing it would be really different. But as long as Ian could talk to me, then we could make it work. So once Ian began communicating, it became a little bit more of an option. And then we just kind of watched Ian progress. Hi, husband.
I agree.
How are you? What? was one of those conversations where I realized this could happen. Then that August, his dad was diagnosed with brain cancer. And at that point, his dad's biggest concern was Ian and I. And whether or not we were going to get married or step away from our relationship, he wanted us to make a decision to move our lives in some direction. He passed away before he was able to see us get engaged, but that was a huge impetus in why we started to pursue engagement. Throughout premarital counseling, we just used this military marriage. It was so helpful because John Pepper talked a lot about primary things and secondary things, which is really important for us because we were walking out our marriage practically. Ian can't do the secondary things like working or making a meal for me. Everything that's primary though he can do, which is leading me spiritually. Ian always comes back to the foundational truths of who God is and kind of reels me back in from my emotions, and that's the most important thing. We have two friends that we're going through the book with. I think we've just been able to help them see that maybe the little things that they're excited for about marriage are worth being excited about, but they're not the end all and be all of their marriage. But we also have so much to learn. We're learning from them and things that they share because our relationships are different and we can glean different things from each other. I think what helped us in deciding to make this with each other, at least for me, is knowing that Ian would come up to me if the roles were reversed and that we love each other and we know that God's going to be faithful to our marriage. We're able to love each other with, I think, a more Christ-like love because of Ian's disability and just understand that picture a little bit better than if you were healthy.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
What about God enables you to have that marriage?
Yeah.
What?
He's awesome.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
And we complain a lot about things we deal with, don't we? One part I like the best about that was what she's calling their gratitude board. You know, we need to focus on the positive. The negatives are all around us, and it's so easy to be negative. But if in a marriage like that, they choose to be positive and focus on the good things.
Some people said, well, that was a cheap advertisement for the book, This Momentary Marriage. Well, you know, I think it's a wonderful story. And I read the book, and I think it's a wonderful book. If you wish to read it, I think it would be beneficial to you. There are 3 books, in fact, that I read back to back that are, I think, very good. One is called The Meaning of Marriage by Timothy Keller, who was a pastor of the Redeemer Presbyterian Church in New York. Outstanding book, all about Ephesians chapter 5 and Matthew 19. This Momentary Marriage by John Piper, and then A Sacred Marriage by Thomas, not John. John Thomas worked with us. Anyways, Thomas is the last name. Great books. All right, let's talk about communication. If I were to ask you, what do you think is the #1 cause for divorce? What would you say? Communication. I'm sorry? Finances. Infidelity. The #1 cause for divorce is marriage. Barring that, the studies that have been done for many, many years, what they show is the most most often reported problem in marriage, and finances happens to be number one. Communication happens to go up at the top. Infidelity happens to be up at the top. Parenting happens to be up at the top. In-laws happens to be up at the top. In my experience, 17 years as a marriage counselor, I have found that if I can help couples learn the skill of communication, everything else can be resolved. But we don't communicate too well. We're very good at talking, but we're not necessarily good at listening or communicating. So that's what we want to spend a few minutes talking about, what we call the art of communication. I'm going to skip some of these. I think I love topics, but we won't spend time looking at that. All right. Healthy communication has two ingredients. The first one is assertiveness. Now let me ask you something. If I say to you, could you describe for me someone who is assertive? How would you describe that person to me?
Right.
I'm sorry?
Right.
For her husband.
Okay.
Someone who's able to communicate their opinions, their stance, their needs clearly, concisely. I would stop there.
That's a great definition.
That's actually as accurate as I've heard. Some people would say, well, someone who's assertive is someone who is pushy. Someone who can stand on their own 2 feet, yes.
I was gonna say also someone who's proactive in their communication.
Proactive in their communication. Now, again, some people would say pushy, forceful people, but that's not necessarily true. Her definition is pretty accurate, and again, the way we define it is the ability, assertiveness is the ability to ask for what you want and need, or to communicate what you like or what you don't like. It's just as simple as that. And that's the first ingredient of healthy communication. Having that ability to say, I like this, I want that, I don't like this, I don't like that. That's just simply being assertive. Now the option is, I'm not going to say anything. You know, I'm going to be sort of passive aggressive, and so I'm not going to tell my spouse what I want, what I like, or what I don't like.
Honey, let's just stop just a minute, because this dear lady right here, just a minute, she has worked so hard all day. She has worked so hard, making sure that we're fed, we're taken care of, we have water, we have hot drinks. Thank you so much for your attentiveness to the details of the work.
In order to be assertive or to have, again, healthy communication, we recommend that you use I statements. I statements are statements about your feelings. They are important because they communicate facts without placing blame and are not likely to promote defensiveness in their receiver. I statements talk about what I feel, what I think, what I want. You statements tend to be accusative, if you want to say it that way. Our messages to create new messages create defensiveness because they sound accusatory. And again, we said that this morning. When you say you, that finger automatically comes out. It's hard to not say you with that finger sticking out. Whereas if I say I don't care how you say it, I'm talking about myself.
And one of the questions we had talked about that one of the spouse feels every time the partner asks something that it was more like a command instead of a thoughtful request. Well, this helps answer that question too. Because once again, I'm focusing on my feelings, what I need, what I think, instead of what you should be doing and your fault and you need to do this. So there again, using I statements all of a sudden turns what could be a very negative interpretation back into stating it in a positive, kind manner.
Okay. Someone said we hear only half of what is said to us, understand only half of that, believe only half of that, and remember only half of that.
That is 6.25% for anybody that's like me has to figure that out.
Guess who's the type A in my family? You know?
So imagine if we only really hear 6.25% of what our spouse is trying to communicate to us. That's not a lot, is it? We've missed the important part.
So then the other ingredient of healthy communication is active listening, not just listening. We listen to a lot of things, we hear a lot of things, but active listening, which involves listening attentively without interruption, and then restating what was heard. So that if my wife says something to me and she states it with an I statement, I'm not going to say, well, no, that's not true, or that's not accurate, or I don't agree with you, because then I haven't really said to her, I heard what you said. But rather, I'm going to respond to her and tell her what I heard her say. Because if I repeat correctly what she told me, then I'm giving her the message, I heard you accurately, correctly. You see, that's where the breakdown in communication takes place in so many situations. We don't even know if the other person understood. Let's say my wife says something to me and I just say, uh-huh. What does uh-huh mean? Okay. What does okay mean? Okay, yes, I understood. Okay, yes, I agree. Okay, but I don't care about it. You know, what does that mean? As opposed to, she tells me something, then I said to her, this is what I heard you say, then she can say, ah, so you were paying attention, and in fact, you're repeating accurately what I was trying to tell you. The breakdown of communication would not exist if we practiced that. In active listening, the listener verbally feeds back what he or she hears in order to clarify that the message has been accurately received and interpreted. Oops, let me go back because I know you want to write those things. The listener is the first word and accurately is the second word in the blank. So you want to repeat back to make sure to clarify that the message has been accurately received and interpreted. Let me just move through some of this. So in assertiveness and active listening, Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 13 illustrates this. He who answers the matter before he hears it, it is folly and shame to him.
Isn't it interesting? Have you noticed how every practical principle that we've tried to give you this weekend has been paired with a Bible verse? Scripture really is our manual on marriage, but so often we just don't realize it. So as you read through Scripture or do your daily devotionals, I really encourage you to ask yourself, we tell people, put on your family ministries glasses. What does this verse have to say about me as a husband, as a father, as a wife, and as a mother?
So we've given you, or we're going to give you, a 3 wish list exercise. You don't have to do it right here. But we'd encourage you to practice it in the privacy of your homes after you have put the kids to sleep, after your friends and family are gone, and just the two of you want to have a good conversation about your relationship. In the 3 wish list, and you have some blanks there in your handout. Let me just double check that. We're actually asking you to do a simple thing, to write 3 things that you would like to see different or better in your relationship. Now notice that you're not writing what you would like to see about the other person. You're not writing, I would like my spouse to, I would like my wife to do, I like my husband to be, but rather, I would like to see this or that in our relationship. I would like us as a couple to do this differently or better. That's one of the things that I wish in our relationship. Now, the more specific you are, the easier it is to understand. For instance, if you write, I wish our marriage were better. Well, what does that mean? How do you measure better? By the hour, by the inch, by the pound? I was working with a couple and I said to the lady, how would you know if your relationship, if your marriage is getting better? And she said, well, I would like for my husband to be nicer. And I said, okay, so how would you know if he's being nicer? I mean, that puts a husband in a very difficult position. Because he might think, okay, maybe she's asking me to work harder. Maybe she's asking me to bring more money. Maybe she said, I don't know what that means. So I said, can you be a little bit more specific? And she said, I would like for my husband to initiate family devotions. Okay, now we're getting more specific. I said, well, can you be a little bit more specific? Because if he initiates family devotions one time, then you could say he's being nicer, right? Or he might say, well, then does that mean I have to do it 100 times or 300 times or 1,000 times before you can say he's a nicer husband? So she said, okay, I would like for my husband to initiate family devotions at least once a week for the next 6 months. Can you measure that? Absolutely. So that in 6 months, if he has initiated family devotions at least once a week, every week, then she could say, I have a nicer husband. Does that make sense? So you have to be specific. So when you write your 3-wish list, think about it. I would like us to be, I would like us to change this. This is where we would like to be, specifically. So you write 3 wishes. Now there's a second question to that. And if it happened, I would feel what? Okay? So separately, you don't do this together. You separately write your 3-wish list. And then this is what we would like you to do. You turn to each other and begin to exchange that information this way. Let's say, for instance, John, the husband, turns to Mary, the wife, and John says to Mary, the first thing on my wish list is, I wish I could spend some time with the guys watching the Redskins for one time a week because then I can spend more time with you the rest of the week. That's pretty specific, okay? So what is Mary supposed to do? To say, okay, I'll let you do that? No, that is not what we're saying. What we're saying is Mary's role is to say, let me make sure I understood what you said. You said you would like to be able to spend time with your friends watching the Redskins, during the times of the game, once a week, but then you would be willing to spend more time with me as well. Is that what I heard you say? Now, if she just says, well, what you're saying is you just want to watch the entire football season and you don't want to have anything to do with me. Is that what she said? No, it's not what she said. Or if she says, oh, you're saying you want to watch the Redskins every week? Well, that's sort of partly what she said, but not all the message. See, that's the reason, again, well, we want to check back and forth. So let's say that she accurately repeated, and then he says, yes, that's what I would like. And if that happened, I would feel much more comfortable spending the rest of the time with you. Then she repeats that. So you're saying that if we agreed that you would spend the 3 hours with your friends watching the Redskins, then you would spend time with me and that would make you feel more comfortable with me. Is that what you're saying? You get what I'm saying here? It's not correcting, it's not compromising, it's not agreeing, it's understanding. What did I hear you say? And you can go back and forth. And so once John tells Mary the first one, then Mary can tell John the first one on her list. And, get back and forth so that you can practice this simple skill, simple yet difficult if you don't know how to do it or haven't done it. Practice the skill of healthy communication by speaking assertively, but also by actively listening to what your spouse is saying. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes.
Instead of your communication exercise, make a wish list of 3 things that you want your partner to do more often, which is not quite what you said.
What you would like to? Well, okay. Yes, thank you. That I need to correct that because that's what we used to say. What you want your partner to do more often, and this is based on research from Prepare and Rich. It was decided that we're really asking a selfish question of our spouse, so that's why I changed it. And thank you for pointing that out. I want to have to change that in the future printouts. What you need to be asking is, what would you like for our relationship to be different or better? So thank you for pointed that out and make the change so that when you make the 3-wish list, it reflects what you want for your relationship as opposed to what you want for your partner or from your partner. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so kind of erase that one on your booklet and don't ask what you would like to see in your partner or your partner to do more often, but rather what would you like to see in your relationship? That's right. I deflated you there, Ray, but that's all right. Now, we want to give you another tool, an additional tool for communication, and basically call I have the floor. If you happen to watch C-SPAN, which you must be bored to death if you want to do that, but if you want to watch C-SPAN, and the Speaker of the House says, the lady from Virginia has the floor, what does that mean? That she's got to pick up a piece of the floor and walk with it? No, that means you can speak, right? So based on that, Markman and Stanley from the University of Denver created an exercise which is called I Have the Floor. And basically is to communicate, for the couple to communicate in an organized manner. And so here's where it is. We're going to give
Glenn, could we have you give one to each couple, please?
we're going to give each of you couples a piece of the floor. Yes.
Sort of to mention,
It is a real piece of the floor, too.
I was in Adventures Club, and I had very rambunctious helping hands, and I cut a piece of rug that was left over from the back there, and I would give it to each one of them when it was their time to talk.
Yeah.
And that's
Same
what it
thing.
is. And that's what it is. You're receiving one per couple. Notice that we're not giving you each one, otherwise both of you will be
So
talking.
notice you have to share there.
Yeah.
So these are the rules, and I'm going to wait till Glenn has passed them all to everyone.
I have more up here, Glenn, if I can give you that.
I can use this again for now.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. You
So
stick
there are-
anything on the other side.
There are several rules. There are some rules for both, and actually I need to switch this to later. But the rules for both of you, did you have one for yourself?
Yes.
Okay. The rules for both of you are simple. The speaker has the floor, so whoever has the floor is the one who gets to speak, obviously. Secondly, share the floor. Because if you hold on to that floor and you keep talking and talking and talking, the other person is going to be frustrated that they can't respond and can't repeat back. In fact, I say to you, and especially because we men use only about 20,000 words and you ladies about 40,000 words, don't go on and on and on and then expect your husband to repeat back everything. Make it short and concise, maybe 1 or 2 sentences. What was that? I want to laugh.
It was amen. From a man. So we just ignored that.
So the speaker has the floor. Secondly, share the floor. So let me make a statement or two and then give you the floor so you can tell me what you heard me say. And thirdly, don't use this as a problem-solving technique. Later, when you get the skills down pat, maybe you can try it, but don't use it at the beginning as a problem-solving technique. There's some rules for the speaker, for the one who has the floor. First of all, speak for yourself. You know, don't say, well, you did, or you never, or you know, all those things are you statements. Use I statements. I saw, I heard, it bothered me, I was angry, it upset me. Secondly, don't go on and on. Don't go on and on and on and on. And therefore, the other person can't even hear what you're saying after a certain point in time. Number 3, speak and then let the listener paraphrase. Those are the rules for the speaker. And then the rules for the listener.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yes? Go back. Go back. Just fill it in the line. There, you have it?
All right. And then the rules for the listener, number 1, paraphrase what you hear. You know, sometimes, or at the beginning, it might be easier to just simply repeat back, which is fine, but It's better if you can try to paraphrase so that you're working on understanding, not just simply repeating back. Don't criticize, don't correct or contradict the speaker. So if let's say your husband says, yesterday when I came home from work, I noticed there was no dinner ready for me and I was very upset. And then you don't say, well, you don't understand how hard of a day I had. I had to take care of the kids and of course, the car broke down. No, that's not the point. Try to understand. He's saying that he was upset, that he was frustrated, that whatever it is, get to his feelings, not simply let me set him straight. All right. Question?
So are you gonna, I don't know if you really talked about or demonstrate how to use this.
Well, so we were saying again, if I am the speaker, again, I will be the one saying something, but I will say it in a short 1 or 2 sentences, and once I finish, then I will give her the floor so that she can then respond to what I said.
So as long as he has the floor, I can't say anything, I'm just listening. And the reason this is a really good tool, it's a really good tool for couples who they have a problem balancing the conversation. If one of the partners usually is the one that speaks all the time and the other one can't get a word in edgewise, this is a really good tool because it's a tactile thing. It gives you something to actually hold on to. So right now I'm speaking, so you shouldn't have this. So as long as I'm speaking, Claudio is listening. He cannot respond, but there again, remember the rules. I'm going to keep it brief. And then when I finish everything I have to say, then I'm going to give it to him.
So earlier we had talked about coming down and then setting a time to talk, and we'll look at that again when we get to the 10 steps to resolving conflict. Well, so again, this is a time when I'm calm, I can listen to what she's got to say, or I can tell her what I want and then let her respond, and then I can respond back, back and forth. I can ask questions, or I can wait till she tells me, the reason this happened.
So if he's just explained to me, I said, is this what I'm hearing you say? Are you saying this? And I respond. And then he can say,
no, that's not exactly, but let me clarify because maybe I wasn't clear enough. So now I've clarified and give it back to her so she can then respond.
okay, so is this what I'm hearing you say? And you keep doing that until you have heard. Now there again, this is not to necessarily agree. Just because I've heard doesn't mean I agree on everything he says. But it's for understanding. To keep going back and forth, paraphrasing, listening again, to make sure I understand what he's trying to say. Do you understand
The idea
behind this? Of cutting the floors?
By the way, there's a great game that I would recommend that you buy. In fact, I want to buy a whole bunch and keep them, at least at Advent Source, which is our distribution center. But I encourage you to invest in it. If you like board games, this is a great board. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, the best board game ever invented. It's just that it's not a competitive game, and so people don't want to buy it. But that's why I like it, because it's an educational game, actually. It's called The Ungame. The Ungame is a very simple game that has only one rule. See, if you play Monopoly, it has a lot of rules, when you can buy a hotel, when you can buy a house, when you can make improvement, all that stuff. So many games have so many rules, sometimes I get tired of the rules before you even begin the game. The Ungame has only one rule. Here's the rule. Whoever has a turn speaks, everybody else has to listen. It's not the type of game where you have to be the first to get to the end, because there is no end. The board, you can go one direction or you can go in the opposite direction. The point is to teach you to communicate. And so the only way to play the game is to set a time. So we're going to play, say, for the next half hour. And so you set the clock, and when you get to the half hour, then you stop playing the game and you're done. The board game comes with a number of cards. One of them is what they call lighthearted. So it's simple questions like how many light bulbs are there in your house? Kind of like an icebreaker if you want to say it that way. And so I'm going to say, there's 15 light bulbs in my house. And Pam says, nope, it's my turn. Remember that? My turn, I'll get to speak. Now, when it's her turn, if she wishes to use her turn to tell me, no, there are not 15, there are actually 17, that's her choice. But during my turn, I get to speak. Okay? That's just the lighthearted one. But they also have some cards that have to do with spiritual understanding. For instance, what does baptism mean to you? So I'm going to answer and say, well, baptism to me means the beginning of a new life. And someone might say, well, it's my turn. When it gets to you, you can say, well, no, I think baptism actually means a marriage, a spiritual marriage between Jesus and me. Well, that's what you want to say, that's fine. And I'm not going to say, no, I don't agree with you because it's not my turn. You see what it's teaching us, especially if you play with your kids. It's the idea, the principle behind it, which is listen when it's not your turn to speak. And let the other speak when it's their turn to speak. Okay?
And so when you get the game, you can get the board game where you actually move around it, but you also can just buy the card packs. And there are a lot of different card packs. There are card packs for teenagers, for younger children, for couples.
For families.
So you may want to get a couple of, in card packs, as a matter of fact, you can just play in the car.